in, so let me see if I can pull him up on the phone right now. Good afternoon, John. Are you there?
How are you?
Good, John. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. Listen, in the studio with me is George Hasiotis, who you already know, and Bill Barden. And so I guess I'm the new kid on the block, George B. Alexander.
Well, hi, Bill. Hi, George. And George.
Hello. Thank you for taking the time out to talk with us today. Number of questions that we have, John, with regard to this Outer Harbor Sports Entertainment Complex. And first of all, just want for the benefit of our listening audience here, you guys are just new at this business, correct?
No, we're not new at this business. We did a little stadium in Dallas for the Cowboys. It's about 2.7 million square feet, mixed-use type stadium like being proposed by GBSEC, where not only do you have football play, but you've got all other kinds of events, concerts, motocrosses. They even have the Boy Scouts camping out in the evenings on the turf, which is kind of cool. And we also did Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis for the Colts, which has a lot of similarities, actually, to the proximity of the Outer Harbor site to the downtown central business district of Buffalo.
Okay. And listen, I should mention for the benefit of our listening audience that John is a partner in HKS, the organization that is proposing this entertainment sports complex on the Outer Harbor. Also in the studio with us is Bill Barden, and he's an architect, and so we will be talking with him as well. John, let me start by asking you, why is this site on the Outer Harbor so important?
Well, just like Indianapolis, which was a site just south of the downtown, it's a site close to parking in the central business district. So instead of having to rely on a suburban site like we did here in Dallas for the Cowboys Stadium, you have a lot of parking infrastructure within a short walking distance, normally like a quarter mile max, and there are a lot of parking facilities within a quarter mile of the Outer Harbor District.
Okay, and you say that's similar to the stadium in Indianapolis?
That's correct. We only had about 2,800 parking spaces on site, but there are structured parking within a short walking distance, and it hasn't, they hosted a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, so it's not a problem for them to get their fans in and out. We also like the Outer Harbor site because of the multimodal link and being able eventually to link the rail up to the Outer Harbor site on their existing rail.
Now, there's been a lot of talk here in Buffalo, and I'm sure that George has been keeping you up to speed on everything, but there's been a lot of talk in Buffalo about, developing a state park, the only state park in Western New York, or at least in Buffalo, on that, or at least adjacent to that particular site that you're talking about. How do you envision integrating them both, the two of them together?
Well, I think that site's around 348 acres, and I think GBSEC has asked for something around 125, which is plenty enough to do a mixed-use development. There's, some discussion with museum group, et cetera, and even talk about potentially having convention facilities also.
When we talk about an entertainment sports complex, just exactly what are we talking about? I mean, we talk about building around the Buffalo Bills, but my understanding it's more than that.
Well, we used an example in Lucas Oil. They have about 125 event days a year. They have the Final Four men's basketball and women's basketball rotating on a 5-year frequency. Men 5 years and then the next year women's. And that's very much a reality for New York to be able to do that if you have a retractable roof stadium. The NCAA requires, of course, that you have a completely enclosed and not an open-air stadium. So open air doesn't work for alternate events. Also, concerts want state surety. So by having a retractable roof, you have the ability to garner other events, motocrosses, WWF, all kinds of family show events so that you do get multiple use out of it rather than just 8 regular season games a year and collegiate or conference championship NCAA football games.
Yeah, Hutch, the other George here. There's been a short list circulated that's being looked at. One list is approximately 4 sites. One of the sites is the Outer Harbor. Another is Niagara Falls. Another is a suburban location, suburban Buffalo, and another is in another adjacent county in Batavia, New York, which would be more rural and suburban. But there are also discussions about different sites in Buffalo, and I know you and I and the team have looked at the Central Terminal. We've looked at some of the other sites. There are 8 or 9 on the list, and the last time I reviewed those sites, there wasn't really enough acreage, the requirement to tear down and condemn property nearby, as well as just the infrastructure costs and the counterproductive costs of going backwards before you can go forwards, meant that there really weren't that many options, and the Outer Harbor really stood out. Do you recall that, or can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, I do. When we studied the Central Terminal site, it was away from the Central Business District, and difficult. It was adjacent to a rail line, but not within close proximity of the downtown. We're also working now with the city of Oakland on a very similar site with a similar financial structure for the Coliseum City site. And in that particular piece of property, the infrastructure is being borne by the city, much like being proposed in this particular site. So a lot of the other sites that we looked at, George, just did not have the infrastructure capacity, also had multiple ownership, which always is a challenge. The nice thing about the Outer Harbor site is it's under public ownership for the Common Council. So there are a lot of things, and as I said, I think the biggest overriding factor is the fact that you have a highway infrastructure nearby, not that it doesn't need to be improved with some links from other streets coming in from the city so that you can enter and exit the site from multiple locations, but its proximity to the Central Business District and the opportunity for 1 + 1 = 5 is there, as opposed to most of the suburban sites that we looked at.
George, let me just follow up on that. Hutch, a lot of people in Buffalo say, well, it should be downtown, but maybe it shouldn't be on the waterfront. And you just addressed that. We really haven't been able to identify anything that provides an alternative. Well, the other thing that I think people are not educated on, and it does take involvement in this type of work, and you certainly have that, is that you're not just trying to satisfy the man in the street or the fan. But you're kind of dealing with a professional sports league. You have to meet their criteria. You're dealing with financial concerns. How do you get the best return on investment? You're dealing with a business model, which is, again, here, as you were just alluding to in Dallas and Indianapolis, it's no longer one sport, but it's using the facility to maximum everyday potential. And we've done that with our plan, with the Strong Museum involved and with other activities and other sports. However, there's still a lot of people, including many in the media, who say, well, that should really be a park. The waterfront is such a precious asset. The unfortunate part of this discussion is that for 60 years, if it was so precious, why was nothing ever done? And the fact is, it is a brownfield. And the fact is that the federal government and the state government are basically under a mandate to remediate brownfields in a mixed-use, constructive way, not just for public use, but for economic development. So what would you say to the people who say this should just be a park and leave it alone? Because what we've basically argued all along is we'd really like to create a great park-like setting. Within that park, some great structures for functionality.
John, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Any response in terms of the park being a standalone park that people have been suggesting it should be, or should it be combined with the entertainment sports complex and still not infringe upon people's ability to enjoy the park?